Hey Dairy Hour listeners, if you're enjoying this show, leaving a review is the best way to help us grow and reach more people. Plus, I've got a little thank you for you. Snap a screenshot of your review, message it to me at DairyGalVal, and I will be sure to send some fun Dairy Hour stickers your way. Thanks for supporting the podcast, and I cannot wait to mail you some swag. Hi, welcome to the Dairy Hour podcast, where rural charm meets personal growth. Join us as we milk every moment for wisdom, self-improvement, and mental wellness. I'm your host, Val Lavigne, a rural dairy farming mom with a passion for filling hearts while never forgetting to fill my own cup. Get ready for insightful conversations, empowering tips, and a splash of fun and laughs, of course. Let's cultivate growth, nourish our minds, and embrace the journey together. This is the Dairy Hour podcast, where every episode is a breath of fresh air and the inspiration you need to be your best self. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Dairy Hour podcast. I am your host, Val Lavigne, and I am joined today by Dr. Jen Roberts. Jen, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Val. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Good. I am so excited to chat with you today. You're just one of those people I am drawn to. When I met you at the Dairy Girl Network conference back in November, and we shared some fun stories and had some good chats, and I have been looking forward to having you on the podcast ever since. So let's start with you just telling me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am a dairy veterinarian and actually cattle veterinarian. I work with all species of cattle, all breeds of cattle. But going back a little bit further, before I started my professional journey, I was a dairy kid. I grew up on a dairy farm in southern Michigan. I spent a lot of time out in the barn with my dad, milking cows, feeding calves, was an active member in 4-H for 10 years and showed red and white Holsteins. So I still have a soft spot for those red and white Holsteins. And all of those experiences on the farm really piqued my interest in becoming a dairy veterinarian. So I went to Michigan State University for undergrad and took a lot of animal science classes to prepare for vet school, and then attended vet school at Michigan State University, graduating in 2005. And practiced in Southwest Wisconsin as a dairy veterinarian for about 7 years. And so I left my practice to try my hand at teaching in the university setting. So I taught at the vet school for a number of years here at Michigan State. And then I left that position about 5 years ago to go into an industry role where I have had the opportunity to do some consulting for dairy farms, work with a lot of veterinarians and dairy producers, and speak at amazing conferences like Dairy Girl Network, where we were able to connect.
Awesome. So where do you currently reside now?
So right now I live in central Michigan, just a little bit south of Lansing, Michigan. So, everywhere I go, I've got my portable map. So I live right about there.
It's Michigan and Wisconsin. If you ask them where they're from, they stick their hand up and show you. I love it. That's like they say the accents are the Midwest thing, but I'm pretty sure that the hand map is like right up there. That's one of my favorites. Michigan. Yeah, you get Wisconsin people. I'm up in the thumb. No, I love it. Oh my gosh. And who do you reside in Michigan with? Tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so I live with my in Mason, Michigan, with my family. My husband Jay, and then my 2 kids. My oldest is about to be 16 here in about 9 days. So,
oh boy.
Yeah, we'll have a 16-year-old in the house, and she's still working through the driver's training requirements, and that's going a little bit better than expected. And then
well, I guess better than expected is better than, well, here's the thing. It's not working out so good.
Exactly. And then our youngest is 13 and a half. He'll be 14 in the spring. And so both the kids are really active in a variety of things, soccer, water polo, swimming, wrestling. So yeah, that keeps us really busy.
That definitely would keep you busy. So let's go back in time again to when you were a kid. Did you always know that you wanted to be a veterinarian when you were growing up, or is there like a point in your life where you said to yourself, I think I am definitely cut out to be a veterinarian? How did that kind of play out?
Yeah, so I have this fleeting memory of being about in third grade where I thought, I want to be a nurse like my mom. So my mom is a nurse. She's been a nurse for about 45 years, and she's amazing at what she does. And so she's a great role model in that respect. Um, but as I spent more and more time around the cows and in the barn, that's when I really was like, no, I want to work with cows. I want to work on farms. And so other than that one moment in about third grade where I thought maybe I'd want to go into human medicine, it's been veterinary medicine was my career path or aspiration for as long as I can remember.
Awesome. That's so great. And tell us a little bit about your farm growing up. How many cows did you milk? What was your main role on the farm growing up?
Yeah, so like many farm kids, my role on the farm was to do whatever dad asked of us.
Whatever you were told to do.
Yes, whatever you were told to do. And we milked about at the height of our herd, we milked about 90 cows. The majority of the time we were on the farm, we milked in a stanchion barn. And around probably 10 years before my dad sold the cows, we retrofitted one side of the stanchion barn to a single parallel parlor. And so that made life so much easier. We didn't really plan on expanding the herd or increasing cow numbers or anything like that. It was just we wanted it to be a little bit easier to milk the cows than it was in the stanchion barn with all of that bending down and squatting and
Yes.
carrying the milking units all over the barn because you had to hook into the vacuum line. And so we did that retrofitting of the barn in the mid 90s. And that made things a whole lot easier on us for the last 9 or 10 years that we were milking cows. And so, just a really neat old, gamble roof barn that had the box stalls for the calves and stanchions for the cows. And on the side of the barn that we didn't retrofit, that was where my show cows got to stay in the winter time. So they got to stay in the barn rather than going out to the free stall. So just a smaller family run dairy. We had part-time high school help, but the majority of the farm labor was myself and my sister and my dad and my mom. My mom always worked off the farm at the hospital, but she would help out when she wasn't working at the hospital. And yeah, so I was asked / told to do everything from picking up shifts, milking cows.
I thought you were going in a different direction with shift, just so you know. It's like, oh, okay, that works. I mean, everybody's got to do it.
Yeah. So, milking cows, feeding calves. We didn't have a TMR mixer, so I was the TMR mixer. And so my dad would dump the feed out at the feed alley in the freestall barn. It was a 3-row barn, and so feed alley along the one side, and we'd go out there at one of the last switches in the parlor and shovel the feed up for the cows, so it was there when we let them back out to the freestall barn. Baling hay in the summertime, raking hay. One of the things that I was disappointed about as a teenager was when my dad got a cab tractor for doing the raking and baling, because that was like, okay, if I'm going to go out and rake hay, I'm going to put on a tank top and I'm going to work on my summer tan. And so he gets a cab tractor. I'm like, how am I going to get my tan?
Yes. Could you please give me back the open air tractor? Girls got to work on her tan. If you're going to make me do this stuff, I got to look good doing it.
Exactly.
Just in case someone so happens to come by and in the field and see me, I can be like, hey.
Yeah.
So you talk about tanning while you're raking hay. My husband, we used to have this guy that worked for us, and he would always take his shirt off when he was raking hay, not because he was like hot temperature wise, but because he wanted to get a good tan. Well, my husband is Irish white, like pale, doesn't tan, he burns. And so one day he was in, this guy that had worked for us in the tractor that he was normally in. And, my husband Greg, he's out there and he's raking the hay and he's like, man, I am like gonna burn so bad. He's like, oh, perfect. So and so left a bottle of sunscreen in the tractor. I'm gonna put some on. So Greg, he lathers his arms up good, Well, he's getting hotter and hotter, and he's like, what is going on? Come to find out, it was not sunscreen that he put on, it was tanning oil.
Oh no.
And
as a busy mom and dairy farmer, I'm always looking for ways to support my family's health as well as my own, and I absolutely love Wonder Cow Colostrum. It's packed with essential nutrients, great for supporting gut health, boosts immunity, and promotes overall wellness. Whether it's for me, my kids, or anyone looking to stay strong and healthy, Wonder Cow is my go-to daily supplement. I've been taking it for a year now, and it is irreplaceable in my daily routine. If you want to experience the amazing benefits of colostrum too, you can use my special code, DairyGalVal, at checkout for a discount. Give Wonder Cow a try, and you will definitely feel the difference.
he was as red as your sweatshirt by the time he got done. It was terrible. He was so burnt. I felt so bad for him, but it was so funny. He wasn't even thinking, guy on the move trying to get field work done, and he just grabbed that bottle and lathered it on. Yep.
Yeah.
Not sunscreen. So, which he should have known better knowing whose it was, but needless to say. So there's that. But so what made you said you showed red and white Holsteins. What kind of pushed you, is that something that your dad always had? What pushed you to go the red and white Holstein route?
Yeah, so we never had red and white Holsteins on the farm before I started showing in 4-H. And I should probably share a little bit about the farm and how we got there too, because there's farmers in my family. My dad has cousins who were farmers, dairy farmers. On my mom's side, my grandfather immigrated from Ireland and always worked on farms with cows and milked cows, and would always say, I've milked cows in 4 countries, because he went from Ireland to England to Canada and then to the US. So there's always been farming in my family, but my dad actually grew up in town. And he spent summers with his cousins who dairy farmed. And that's kind of where he developed that love of dairy farming. And so after a brief stint in the Army, he decided to come home. He was in the Army for about 5 years. He decided to come home, and he worked at a dairy for about a year and then decided, I'd really like to have my own dairy. And so he and my mom, they were very young. They were in their mid-20s, and decided to purchase a dairy farm. And so they purchased this dairy farm that I grew up on. We moved there when I was 2. And with that purchase of the farm, they purchased the cows, and they were all black and white Holsteins. And with one random all black cow that was like part Dutch belted or something that we called Blackie, and she had quite an attitude. But yes. Anyway,
usually those signature crosses, they've always got a little something that sets them apart.
Yeah, they're a little sassy. So I grew up with just the black and white Holsteins. And then when it was time for me to start 4-H, you know, we'd been to the fair and I'd seen some of the other breeds at the fair. And I went to my dad and, you know, I'm 8 years old. And I said, I really want a Jersey calf. Like, those little baby jerseys are so cute. And I want to show jerseys. And my dad was like, no, I will not have a Jersey on the farm. And so, you know, here's little 8-year-old me crushed that I can't have my cute little big brown-eyed calf, you know. And so my dad did some research and he came to me and he said, you know, I've been reading a little bit about these red and white Holsteins. And it was the late 80s. Like, not a lot of people had red and white Holsteins. There were a couple farms in Michigan that were breeding red and white Holsteins. And so through the Red and White Dairy Cattle Association directory, we were able to connect with a couple of those farms in Michigan that were breeding red and white Holsteins. And we found one. Ironically, it's here in Mason, the town I live in now. So this was 35 years ago. I got my first 4-H calf from the town where I ended up residing when I moved back to Michigan with my family. And so we went there and the farmer said, hey, I've got this really nice spring calf for you, you know, born in early March, will be great for the fair this fall. And he said, I'll give you a deal. If you buy the good one, I'll give you one that's kind of so-so for half price so that you can take a pair home. And so we drove up to Mason and we picked up my very first 4-H calf, a little red and white Holstein calf that, you know, 8-year-old me had the name all picked out before we even went to see the calf. And so that was my introduction to red and whites. And so Angel.
And what was the calf's name? Oh, Angel.
Yep. Her name was Angel.
Was she an angel?
She was, unless the veterinarian showed up for some reason, you know.
That came full circle.
Yeah, as you know, as show cows do, when the veterinarian shows up to do something with them, they're like, you know, totally different attitude.
And no, thank you. Oh, that's great.
She was spoiled, absolutely spoiled. So she was born in March of 1989, and she died on the farm in the summer of 2001.
Atta girl.
So, yeah, she lived to be 12. My dad made me a promise early on that she would die on the farm.
Yep. That's my first show calf. Ended up, we retired her. She was a milking shorthorn and we retired her and she went, we didn't have a good spot on our farm to keep her. And so my grandparents had my cousin's horse on their old beef farm. So Shorty the shorthorn, she went and lived with my cousin's horse over on my grandparents' beef farm. And she's she's buried on the knoll there. So nice. Where she passed away. And she was, I think she was, 14 probably. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those good old gals that they are.
Yeah, those,
was spoiled rotten.
Yeah, they get spoiled and they definitely, you know, they stay with you for a long time. They do. You know?
Yep, she's actually, there's a picture of her on our farm sign. So she's still here.
Nice.
So,
but yeah, Angel was, there were a couple of years there where she was, you know, a little bit of a fertility challenge for us, which again, more foreshadowing. You know, my 4-H animal, we struggled getting her pregnant. We ended up, you know, in the early 90s having to buy a frozen embryo to put an embryo in her and try to get her to carry a calf so we could get her to, you know, start another lactation. And, you know, I end up becoming a veterinarian who then specializes in reproduction. So
she trained you good.
She trained me really well. Yep. But she was quite prolific. She had 5 or 6 heifer calves in her lifetime. So nearly my entire show string actually for 10 years was related to her in some way. Either,
that's great.
You know, daughter or granddaughter, or great grand.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was
I
kind of
always
fun.
just ended up with a good streak of bulls. So here we are. I don't have any fun, like generational stories. Mine were all like, hold on, but wait, here's a bull. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
So, oh dear. Well, good. So then you went off to vet school, went through vet school, and then you said you went to Southern Wisconsin.
Yep.
And
Yeah, so I landed in Southwest Wisconsin at a practice in a little town called Plain, Wisconsin, that's about 40 miles west of Madison, and practiced in Sauk County, Wisconsin.
okay. And then what made you make the jump to teaching?
When I was in practice, because our practice was close to Madison, we had a relationship with the vet school there where we would take ambulatory students. And I always really enjoyed having the students in my truck. It was refreshing to hear new perspectives from them, hear about what they were learning, and have that opportunity to mentor them and teach them new skills and teach them skills that were really going to benefit them as day one graduates in dairy practice.
Mhm.
And so it was part of that experience that really made me want to do more teaching of veterinary students. And so when my son was a newborn, Michigan State posted, so back in 2011, Michigan State had posted a position for a clinical instructor. And the requirements were that you had at least 6 years in private practice and, had cattle experience. And so I thought, well, if I, what do I have to lose?
Yeah.
I'm a partner in my practice. I love my practice. I love my clients. If I stay here, I'm totally fine with that. But here's this other opportunity that I can apply for. And like the worst that happens is they tell me no thanks. And then I get to go back to my amazing dairy clients and my practice that I love. So it was kind of like I had nothing to lose in
Mhm.
applying to that position. And so I applied and they invited me for an interview. And at the time, my practice was kind of an early adopter of ultrasound in reproductive management. And so that's what I used as my topic for my presentation when I interviewed at Michigan State. And they went, hey, we need a clinical instructor, but we also need somebody who can teach reproduction to these students because the person who is teaching that is retiring. And so they offered me the position, and I was able to spend 7 amazing years teaching and mentoring vet students. So yeah,
Awesome.
that was another fun step in my career.
That is, and what essentially made you decide to step away from it?
To step away from teaching,
Yeah.
um, well, so there's people ask me all the time because I've spent time in private practice at the university and in industry. People ask me all the time, which one of those aspects is your favorite? And it's really hard to say which one is my favorite or which one I like better because I love them all for
Mhm.
different reasons. But the reason that I chose to step away from teaching was that, even though I really loved the impact that I was having on the veterinary students and the opportunity to mentor them. And then by extension, I was influencing the dairy industry because I was training the next generation of veterinarians who were going to be taking care of those dairy clients. I really missed the interaction with clients and
Yeah.
other veterinarians out in the field, and really just having that boots on the ground. I was still doing clinical work for the Michigan State University dairy, which I loved doing, and it was like my 1 day a week that I got dirty. But there was another opportunity to
Yep.
look at an industry position, And again, I was in this position where I'm like, I love this job that I'm doing. I'm teaching students and it's very professionally fulfilling for me. But then, hey, there's this other opportunity that I think would be
Yeah.
really great too. And so, I took the risk to apply for that. And the biggest reason was that I just really wanted to be back out in the field,
Yep.
to face with dairy farmers. And as I thought about it, I thought, I love teaching, but I went to veterinary school because I really love the dairy industry and I wanted to be a dairy veterinarian and I wanted to have an impact on the dairy industry. And I feel like I can have a much broader impact in an
Mhm.
industry role where I have the opportunity to cover a larger geography, be out on farms, and be face to face with the dairy farmers. And so that was one of my main deciding factors to step away from teaching. And in my industry role, I still get to do teaching.
Yep.
I get to teach the sales representatives that I work with, and do trainings for them. I get to still go to veterinary schools and work with those students and teach them and provide advice and mentorship. And it's just on a broader scale. It's no
Yeah.
longer just those students at Michigan State University. I have the opportunity to I guest lecture at Tuskegee University and I do guest lectures at Ohio State. And I have met students through American Association of Bovine Practitioners that are at schools like Virginia, Maryland, and just all over the country. And so every stage of my career has been wonderful and fulfilling. But at this stage, I really wanted to be back out in
Yep.
in the field.
Yeah. Cool. It's wonderful how opportunities have a tendency to present themselves when they're needed. It just, the more people that I interview and the more people that I hear these stories, it's just so great to hear like how, these random phone calls or these random things just present themselves and seem to put people right where they belong. So it's just neat to have that little bit of faith and like there's some type of plan, like it's going to work out to where it should and things will put you in the place that you're supposed to be. So that's just a neat little story. I love that. And so I guess at this point, I have to ask you to tell the story because it cracks me up. And then I have a follow-up for this story. So she shared this little story with me at the Dairy Girl Network conference, and it is just the funniest thing. So tell us about how much you just love squirrels.
Oh, so the thing about being a veterinarian is that everybody wants to talk to you about animals and ask your advice about animals. And it really doesn't matter what the animal is, if it has fur, if it doesn't walk on two legs, like it doesn't matter. They will ask you about it. Whether they think you know it all. I mean, I guess maybe they assume we know it all because
Hey,
that
you're a
whole like,
veterinarian, you have to know it all.
yeah, real doctors treat more than one species thing, right? Like we have to learn it all. So I have a neighbor who is a pediatrician. And so we have this wonderfully symbiotic relationship where she asks me questions about her dogs and I ask her questions about my kids. And it's a really nice give and take there. And so usually it's about her dogs. She's got two Bernedoodles. And usually when she texts me or calls me about a veterinary question, it's about her dogs. Well, there was a Sunday this spring that she texted me, and I was down at the farm helping my dad because we now have some beef cows and some Holstein steers down there, and so I still go down and help him and do some vet work down there for him. So we were down at the farm, and I get this text message from my neighbor, and she attached a picture to it, and she said, "How can I get these squirrels outside my house to stop screaming?" And I looked at this picture and I had to zoom in because it looked like a pinwheel of squirrels attached by their tails, but with 5 little squirrel bodies radiating out in every direction, attached to the side of the pine tree just outside her kitchen window. And she also attached a video, and these things were squealing. And so at first she thought it was her boys. She has 3 boys, and she thought they were roughhousing and screaming, and she was yelling at her boys to stop screaming, and they're like, Mom, it's not us. And then she realized it was the squirrels. And so I'm like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. Like, yeah, it's an animal, but like, I have no experience with squirrels other than they run around in my backyard and my dog likes to try to catch one. So I said, well, I'm driving back from the farm. I'll swing by. I'll bring some, I don't even know what supplies I need at this point to try to do this.
I'll bring my vet stuff.
Like, I'll bring whatever vet stuff I can think as possible, necessities, and I'll see what we can do. But in the meantime, if you can get them into a tote so that we can try to trap them and see what's going on, I'll take a look. So grab up some vet supplies, go over there. They've got, and because we're dealing with squirrels here, all the leather gloves I could find in the garage.
So when you talk about squirrels and trees, all I can think of, just with Christmas time coming upon us, all I can think of is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Squirrel!
That is my favorite holiday movie, by the way.
And this is why we're friends, like right here. Okay, go carry on. So you get there.
So I get there, and these 5 little baby squirrels. Now, my kids have pet rats, and they're about 350 grams in weight. So like, I don't know, a little under a pound each. And I look at these squirrels and they're smaller than that. So they're probably like half a pound each, like just pretty small little baby squirrels. And their tails were like knotted together at the ends. And these things could not get separated. And so we were able to get them caught up, hold on to them with the leather gloves. And I worked with some hemostats and some scissors and tried to, very gently was able to separate the tails and get them apart. And we did a little more research, and it's actually a phenomenon called squirrel king. And it happens rarely enough, or it's seen rarely enough. Who knows how often it really happens. But it's seen rarely enough that if you look at the Wikipedia page on Squirrel King, they actually have a list of dates where it was reported. And it's like, I don't know, 10 or 12 dates of this being reported. So what happens is these little squirrels are in a nest in a pine tree, which is what my neighbor had in her side yard. And the sap drips down into the nest and gets on their tails. And then they get tangled together. So the sap sticks their tails together. And then as they move around in the nest, kind of climbing over one another and moving around, it wraps those tails together and it gets them knotted up to the point that they just cannot separate themselves. And so without human intervention, these poor little squirrels die because they're stuck together. They can't hunt. They can't climb trees.
Squirrel tug of war.
It's like a giant tug of war that they just can't get out of. And so we were able to save 4 of the 5 squirrels. We had called around to wildlife rescues and all the wildlife rescues in our area. It was a Sunday and they're like, no, we don't take squirrels. And, I'm a softie. Like I knew nothing about squirrels. It's, but I know animals, right? I'm a veterinarian. They called me for help. And so we were able to help these squirrels. And then I got a text message from my daughter a few days later, and she was at school, and she said, "Hey, can you send me the pictures of the squirrels?" And I was like, "Why do you need the pictures of squirrels?" Well, the neighbor who had called me about them, her husband is one of the teachers at the high school. And so then he told all of his teacher friends at the high school, and one of those was the gym teacher, and my daughter was in gym class. And they're like, "Oh, hey, you're the one whose mom helped the squirrels."
Oh, you're the squirrel lady's daughter.
It has become like legend around the high school, to the point that when I took the kids for the open house this fall, when she was starting 10th grade, we bumped into the gym teacher in the hallway, and she's like, "Hey, you're the squirrel veterinarian." I'm like,
You're like the next Dr. Pole.
I don't know about that, but definitely, Dr. Doolittle, like,
Oh gosh, that's amazing. So you had told me that story, uh, and then a month later, up on my, and this, I think this is the second podcast in a row I've talked about that darn algorithm and how it finds you. Well, a couple weeks after we were there and you told me this story, a reel popped up, and it was rats that also had their tails knotted together and were stuck. And all I could think of was you and the squirrels. And I just died laughing because, yeah, I can't imagine it. And
that
then
algorithm gets us every time.
it does. And now it's probably going to show up again because I'm talking about it next to my phone. So here we are.
Yep,
It's fine.
I'm sure.
The lovely algorithm. But oh my gosh. So you can get a hold of Jen for all your cow, squirrel, rat, children, anything. You name it, she'll doctor it. It's fine. Oh my gosh, I love it. So I like to get into some fun rapid fire questions about now in the podcast, just to get to know you a little bit more and have some fun. So,
all right.
if you're going out for a quick dinner, are you going burgers or pizza?
Ooh, burgers.
Burgers, at a girl. See, like I said, I knew we were friends. Let's see. Being a vet and having children and all those things, what is your favorite way to relax? What's something that you do for you?
So I focused more on this in the last couple of years, because I've always really enjoyed reading. And so one of the things that I try to do to just have a little bit of time for myself is to make sure I get up in the morning, brew my coffee, and sit down at my chair near the fireplace with a book, and at least get a little bit of reading in before the craziness of the day starts.
Awesome. See, I'm a reading at night person. I run, especially when it's cold, because I live where it's cold, yet I hate the cold, but nothing is
Same.
better.
Another reason we're friends.
Yes. And there's nothing better than a nice hot bath and reading my book in peace and
Yeah, my
quiet.
struggle with reading at night is that I'm usually so drained from the day that I get through like a page and a half, and then I get to that stage where I'm like, oh gosh, I think I read this paragraph already. And then I'm like reading, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is like the third time I've read this sentence.
Maybe I should
probably
go to bed.
put this book down and close my eyes.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't doze off every once in a while, but it's fine. It's relaxing. But I'm certainly not going to get up early in the morning to read because girl needs her sleep. Not.
Absolutely.
I'm not. What do they say? I'm not a morning person. I'm not a night person. I like my sleep person. So
yeah,
I'm here for it.
Well, and I mean, I'm not talking like 5 a.m. early. I'm talking like 6:37.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's doable.
Yeah.
I still not getting up any earlier to read though. I have to get up at that time just because I have chores to do, but yeah, it's fine. What's your favorite board game?
Ooh, probably Monopoly. I haven't played it in a while, but I do like Monopoly.
And are you like a laid back kind of player, or are you a cutthroat? I'm taking all your money and all your property.
Yeah, I can be that way. Yeah. There was this other board game that my grandparents had when I was a kid that had this like popper in the middle that like popped the dice for you to tell you how many spaces you could move. And
Mm.
like that thing got real competitive too.
Whack.
Or
I can
Sorry.
see.
Have you ever played Sorry?
I feel like I may have, but that's not like one of the top ones on my list. I've been really into card games lately. My so I love my grandparents that I'm really close with. They play a lot of card games. They've got me hooked on Play Nines, which is kind of like a golf game. And then they've been playing Racco lately.
Okay.
And so my mom just ordered Racco and we've been playing Racco so that my kids uh like to play games also. So we've been working on Racco so that when we go down to Florida to visit Graham and Gramp that we're all ready to go play some Racco,
Okay.
which is also pretty fun. But
Yeah. So my family has this card game we call Peanuts, and
peanuts.
it's like community solitaire. So
Oh,
everybody has their own deck of cards, and you set it up like solitaire with your draw pile and then like the ones that you play off of. But anytime you get an ace, you put it out in the middle. And
uh,
then you play off of the aces that are in the middle. And the objective is to get rid of all of your cards and have all of your cards in the, well, not all of your cards, but like get your draw deck all out in the middle.
okay.
And that gets really cutthroat, especially if people like turn up the same card to put out in the middle at the same time and there's like beat downs.
Oh, I do love a good cutthroat card game. Yep. Except I have to when now that I have younger children that are learning how to play, I have to play nice. And I have to like teach them that it's okay to lose, which it is. It's okay. There's if there's a winner, there's got to be a loser. It's fine. Got to play nice. Show them that it's okay to lose gracefully.
Yep,
You don't have to
exactly.
show them how to lose gracefully if you win every time. So oh gosh. But yes, and I always do love a good Cards Against Humanity game.
Oh yeah, that's
There's
good too.
yeah, never fails. That's our New Year's Eve game after the kids go to bed.
Uh-huh.
So, um, let's see. What is your what's your favorite holiday tradition? It can be any holiday. Just like a fond memory or just something that you look forward to.
Um, so we have a tradition for Thanksgiving in my family. So the cousins that my dad used to spend summers with that were dairy farmers that got him interested in dairy farming. The tradition that we have there is that we go to their place for Thanksgiving every year. And not everybody is able to make it every year, but they always host. And
Mhm.
the really cool thing about that tradition is that it was started like my great grandparents, either their parents or grandparents started it. And so my kids are like the sixth generation to make that trek up to my cousin's farm for Thanksgiving. And so, many of the older generation are no longer with us, but we always remember them and talk about, Thanksgivings that we shared with them. And so that's just kind of a cool family
That
history and
is.
tradition. Um, it used to be when I was younger, I can remember going up there and having my great grandparents there and my great grandma's sisters. And so it was just really neat that I have those memories of
Yeah.
those family members. I mean, my my great grandma's older sister, she was born in 1899. So I have memories of aunts that were born at the tail end of the 19th century because we had that family tradition of all going up there for Thanksgiving. And so I just think that's really cool.
Yes. Does that make us old if we remember someone that was born in the 1800s? Because my great grandmother on my dad's side, I remember when she turned over 100 in the 90s. So she was born, I don't remember what year she was born, in the late 1890s. And it's just cool. And looking now, like, kids think we're old because we were born in the 1900s, but I knew someone born in the 1800s. So there. So,
I mean, I think the way to spin that, Val, is that we have really great genetics, right?
I mean,
like,
yeah, that too.
If you've got family members that lived into their, that lived to be old enough that as kids we can remember interacting with them, like that's amazing genetics.
Yeah, for real. And she would always, because we always did with that side of the family, we always did like a combined, it was like a Thanksgiving, Christmassy kind of thing in between the two holidays. And she would always get us those little, do you remember the little lifesavers, like storybooks? They're like a little
Yeah.
box and you open them up and the lifesavers are in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Haven't seen those in forever because my kids would love those. I'm gonna have to look and see if they have them now that I'm thinking of them.
You can still get those like foil wrapped strawberry candies that nobody knows what they're called.
Oh, I love those things. Oh, and I know what they're called and it's not in my brain at the moment. What are they called? Oh, it's gonna bother me.
They're just, to me, they're just like the strawberry candies that everybody's grandma had.
Yes, and they're delicious. And they
are
come,
good.
oh my gosh, hold on. We're looking this up. Those things are so good. What are they called? They're just calling them strawberry bonbons.
Huh.
I feel like they had an actual name. No, just all I'm seeing is bonbons.
I feel like
Strawberry.
grandma's strawberry candies is better than strawberry bonbons.
Yeah. Yeah, they are definitely called strawberry bonbons. That works.
All right.
See, you learn something new every day, right?
Now I feel like I need to get some strawberry bonbons.
I could go for some strawberry bonbons always. What? Let's see. Your favorite trip you've ever made?
Oh, there's so many to choose from, but probably my favorite right now, because who knows what the future will bring. But I do love to travel. But about 6 years ago, I mentioned that my grandfather immigrated from Ireland. He actually came by himself with very little, just whatever he had in his pocket and whatever clothes he had on his back, and left all of his family behind in Ireland and England, really just looking for a better life for himself. But the effect of that is that I still have family in Ireland and England. So all of my cousins on that side of the family are still there, either in the community where my grandfather grew up, or in other areas in Southern Ireland and in England. And so about 6 years ago, I had connected with them. My mom's always been really good about keeping in touch with them. And so I had connected with my cousins over Facebook. A couple of them have been here to visit, but we had never been to Ireland or England to visit them. And so we wanted to wait until the kids were old enough that they would remember the trip. And so in 2018, they were, 7 and 10 when we went, or 7 and 9. And we went and spent a week in Ireland, and we spent a week in England. And
that's awesome.
About half of the time in Ireland, we spent in the village where my grandfather grew up. And then the other half we spent down in County Cork along the southern coast of Ireland with my cousin there, who had moved. It's about an hour and a half from the village where my grandfather grew up. But it was really neat to go there to see the farm where my grandfather. Well, it was actually like a Christian Brothers mission, like a training area or a training place for priests. and they had they were fully self-contained. They had their own farm, and that's where my grandfather worked as a laborer. And he would walk there every day from the little thatched cottage that he grew up in. And so I got to see that and, just kind of experience that and see where I'm from.
Awesome. That is really cool. That's special to have those memories.
Yeah.
And well, as long as everything plays out right, we're about to do a trip like that with my kids, who conveniently will be 7 and 9. But that's just funny you say those ages, and I was like, oh, perfect. Like the ages are right on.
Yeah, they were really good ages, and they
Yeah,
really enjoyed the trip. And then my cousins have kids that are about the same age as my kids, and so they were able to play together. And it was a great trip.
that's really special. And I'm sure they'll remember it forever.
Yeah.
So very cool. All right. So I like to ask a deeper thought question at this point that was left by a previous guest. And the question that I've selected for you is, and because we're talking about like being older and all that fun stuff, if it was your 90th birthday and your loved ones made a movie about your life for you as a gift, what do you hope is shown in it? And bonus points, what actress would you like to play you?
Oh. um, wow. Well, I'm gonna try not to I'm a very empathic person, very emotional, so I'm gonna try not to, cry.
No, don't cry. I don't need to cry this morning.
Um, let's see. So what would that movie share? I really try to strike a balance between being good at what I do as a professional, but also taking that time to spend with my family and make memories with them. And so I think that's what I would hope that movie would highlight some of my achievements as a professional, but really focus more on how the impacts that I've made on the people that I've crossed paths with along the way, whether that's other veterinarians that I've worked with, the family that I've helped to raise with my husband, because it is hard to be a professional and to be a mom and to try to strike a balance and feel like you're doing a good job at all of those things. And so I hope that, if someone were to make that movie in, 45 years, 46 years, whatever.
You don't have to give away numbers. You're good. In
That
60 years.
however long they, because it's going to take them a while to put this together, right? Like if the goal is to have it done, we need some production lead time here.
Perfect. Thinking ahead.
Yeah. So I hope it would highlight those things that I've done well, that hopefully I've been able to make an impact on my family and the people in my professional life.
Awesome. And what actress, which you can choose a current actress.
Yeah. So I've had people tell me that I look similar to Jennifer Garner. So
I can see it.
probably Jennifer Garner.
Perfect. She's a great choice. Solid.
Yeah. Great actress.
Yes.
So
works for me.
That's the one that comes to mind.
Perfect. Well, if that's what you're happy with, I'm happy. So that's what matters. Oh dear. And Jen, what is a piece of, a motivational, inspirational quote that drives you to be the best that you can be and really speaks to your soul?
Yeah. So since your email and giving me the heads up that you were going to ask me this question, Ooh, there's so many. It's so hard to choose just one. But as I was thinking about um, what I wanted to share today, I read a book recently, and it's an older book. It was I want to say it was published sometime in the mid 90s, maybe, called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And it's not a very long read, but it's kind of a fable, and it talks about this young man who is a shepherd and has a dream one night that he should sell his flock and go on this journey in search of a treasure at the pyramids. And so he wakes up the next day and decides he's going to sell his flock, go across the Mediterranean to northern Africa and go on this journey. And so it really speaks to following your dreams. There's stories in it about the people that he meets along the way, some of the hardships that he encounters. But ultimately, it's about we don't necessarily have to go on this long and arduous journey. Like the things that we have that we need to be fulfilled in life, we've had all along. But it's kind of a journey of self-discovery and kind of learning that. And so I really enjoyed that book, and it has so many little gems throughout that are, quotes to really live by. But one that let's see, I have to read it off my phone here. So one that stood out to me was when we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too. And so, I thought that was just a really powerful quote, that like when we are striving to become better, like it's not just for us. Like, of course, we do things because we want to become better ourselves, but then that has a ripple effect and it impacts the people around us. And so, that's just one of the many gems that I took away from that book. So it's not a very long read. I think it's like 150 pages or 175 pages or something, but it's got a lot of little quotes like that. Another one from that book is, there's only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve: the fear of failure. So, just lots of little
Good
nuggets.
little tidbits.
Yeah, and you think about that, and that just holds so much meaning. Like if the only thing that gets in the way of us achieving what we want to achieve is the fear of failing and not getting started on the path to trying to achieve whatever that is, because we're like, oh, I just can't do it.
Yep.
I can try, but I'm gonna fail. No, like just try. And so, yeah, I recommend that book for anybody that is looking for some of those little inspirational nuggets.
I love it. And that's right. This is why we're friends, like I said, because that speaks to me as well, things like that. And I like, the quotes along the lines of like, if you're trying hard enough, you will fail. But the difference between succeeding and not succeeding is the fact that when you fail, you try again.
Yeah.
So I love those. Awesome. Jen, I've had so much fun chatting with you today. And if people want to connect with you, where can they connect with you?
So I do have a profile on LinkedIn. Not on there every day. I struggle to be on, so like I just have so many irons in the fire. It's hard to spend a lot of time on social media, but if I get a message on LinkedIn, I definitely check it. I'm on Facebook as well. I know Facebook's kind of like, I don't know, it's for like us older people now, I think.
I'm old too, so it's fine.
And I do have an Instagram account that I check periodically. I'm trying to be better because pictures make me happy. I love pictures. I love reels, short little videos and stuff. So those are kind of the three areas where I do have some socials, where awesome. I'm kind of sporadically there.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to link those in the show notes for anyone that wants to connect with Dr. Jen Roberts, Squirrel, DVM. We're just giving you a new title now at this point. It's fine. Oh my gosh. Jen, is there any other little tidbits that you want to share?
Well, Well, I mean, I guess the last thing I would share with your listeners is, kind of going off of my path through my career. You probably picked up on the theme of, hey, if an opportunity comes your way, what's the harm in trying? And so I've always given that piece of advice to my vet students, and to my kids that, hey, if something comes along that seems like it might be interesting to you, there's no harm in trying that. Just go for it. You might end up going down a path that you never dreamed of or that you didn't think was a possibility, but here we are. So those would be my closing thoughts for your listeners.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Jen, for joining me today on the Dairy Hour podcast. Thank you all for listening. And I hope that if you loved this episode, please share with a friend. Be sure to subscribe to the Dairy Hour podcast so you can be updated when new episodes come out. And we will talk to you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.